Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Varun Tahin. In the previous video, we have seen how do we get started with basic Python data structures. If you guys haven't gone through that video, I would strongly recommend to see that one first, for which I will give the link in the description as well. Or you can pause the video and check out that video by clicking on the top right corner of the screen. So the agenda for today is that we will see some of the important concepts in Python like if-else, loops, comprehensions, functions, and map, filter, and reduce functionalities. So guys, let's start. Guys, before going to the next topic, let us discuss some of the questions asked in the previous video for which I have promised to give answers. So here is question number 1. We had appended one element in the list 1 and asked the content of the list second. Okay, so you guys can see that we have equated the list 1 and list 2, and I have asked you guys after appending 4 to the list 1, what will be the contents in list 2. So as you can see here, the contents both in list 1 and list 2 will be the same, as the memory management and memory reference is the same for list 1 and list 2. So let's move on to the next question. So there was one question asked where we have been given the list of usernames and you have to input an email from the user, and after that you have to check whether that username in the email falls within the list of usernames or not. So this is the program for that, guys. So if I execute this, it's asking the username here. And if I type parvati@gmail.com, okay, and then execute this, it will give me true. If I give anything else here like gagan@gmail.com, then it will start giving me false because this username does not fall under the list of the username. So the logic written is such that we will take an input from the user here, and we already have the list of username. So we will cross check username from the input from the user by splitting with @ and taking the first index of it because it will return a list. So that will return a username for us, and the second index, that is the first index, will be having the domain name, so that is not required. So I just check that out, and I'm just only concerned with the first index, that is the username, and I will check that in the list of the usernames by checking with in condition. Now let's move on with the newer concept, guys, one of which is if else. So there can be scenarios where decision making is required when we want to execute a code only if a certain condition is satisfied. So in those cases, the if, elif, else statement is used in Python for decision making. You can see here in the flow chart as well, on certain condition, a certain piece of code is executed. We can also model this in real life scenarios, and that will help us in decision making process as well. So guys, you can see here how the conditional statements are written. So equal represents A double equals B, not equals represent A exclamation equals to B, and thereafter you can check these symbols. So now I will try and demonstrate an example here where we will see how to print an exam's result based on the score given by the user. So we will give passing score as 40 for now and distinction on 90 and above out of 100. So let's start. So score equals to int input. So I'm taking an input from the user here, saying enter your score, okay, and setting passing equals to 40, distinction as 90. So for now I will give it as 50, and here you'll use if else statement now. So if score is greater than equals to passing and score is less than distinction, so we'll say print you have passed, okay, and we'll just use another if here. So if score is less than passing, then we'll say print sorry you have failed, okay. So it's saying you have passed because the score is greater than 40, okay. So it is just using the if statement now, and now we will see how to use the ifs, elif, and else statement. So guys, let's say that we don't just want to print the result as passed or failed, but also print his grade as per his marks bracket. So we will classify his grade as first class, second class, distinction, failed, and etc. So let me show you how to do that. Score is double equals to 100. You will say print bullseye because he has scored excellently. attain the full marks. So elif 90 is less than equals to score is less than 100. Then we will say print distinction, or elif 65 is less than equals to score is less than 90. Then we will say print first class. We'll say elif 40 is less than equals to score is less than 65. So let's say that he has attained second class. Or else, if he is not falling in any of these brackets, then let's say that he has failed. Okay, so you can see here we have taken an input from the user. He has given us 50 as a score, so it falls between 40 and 65, so he has attained second class here. Now let's see how match is done in an if statement. Let's say that we have a review of a coffee variety and we wanted to check if the review is bad or good based on the presence of word bad in it. So let us say that the statement says the coffee is bad. Okay, so let's check it by if statement. So if bad in statement, then print bad review, else we'll print not a bad review. Okay, so you can see here that it is a bad review because bad is present in the statement, and if I change this statement to the coffee is good, so it says not a bad review now. Now let's look at one more example with if statement that will clear all your concepts. So let's say that you want to write a program to input a number from a user and check if that is even, and then if that is found even, then check if it is divisible by 4 or not. Or else if that number is odd, then check if the number is divisible by 3 or not. So let us check how to do that. We'll say num is equals to int input enter a number. Okay, then we'll say if num mod 2 is double equals to 0, print even. So guys, this mod represents that we need to divide this number by 2, and it will basically check the remainder of it, and if it is completely divisible, that means that the mod value is 0, then we will say that the number is even. Okay, so if that is even, then we need to check if the number is divisible by 4 or not. So if it is completely divisible, we will say print divisible by 4. Okay, or else we'll say print not divisible by 4. Okay, now if the number is odd, that comes in else, then we will simply print odd, and we will check if the number is divisible by 3. Okay, if that is the case, then we will say that divisible by 3, or else we'll say print not divisible by 3. Okay, so we'll check this. Let's say that this time we'll give it as 4. Okay, so the number is even, as you can see, and it is divisible by 4, so it gives divisible by 4 and even from here, the first check. Okay, now we will check with 9. So 9 is odd number and it is divisible by 3, so it comes in the second condition. Now let's check some corner cases also. Let's say that we will check for 11. because it is not divisible by 3, but it is still odd number. So it gives odd and not divisible by 3. So likewise, we can check for the even number also. So let's say that 2. Okay, so 2 is an even number, but not divisible by 4. So it comes in the first, but the second condition. Yeah. So the gist here is, if the condition given in an if statement is true, then it executes that block under it, or else check the next elif conditions until any one of them are true. If none of them are found true, then it executes the else statement. Okay. So now time for some fact checks, guys. Let's say that we have the code as under. Can you tell me the output of it, whether it gives me true, false, or error? Can you try and comment in the comment section? So guys, let's move on to the next concept, which is loop. The loop is used when code needs to be repeated certain number of times. We can use either for loop or while loop to repeat the business logic the number of times specified. So first we will see the for loop and how it executes given number of times using range function. So let's start. So we'll say for I in range 1, 5 and then print I. So you guys can see that the loop is executed 4 number of times, and so the first argument here specify from which number you want to start the loop, and the second argument specify till what number we want the loop to continue. So please remember, guys, the second argument is the exclusion part, so always loop will continue till n minus 1 number, which is in this case 5 minus 1 equals to 4. So 4 times the loop will continue. So in the previous example we were doing a normal increment of 1. Now shall we see how do we implement an increment logic if the step to increment is more than 1? So let me show you that. For I in range 1, 10, 2 print I. Okay, so here the last parameter you are seeing here is the increment part, which is equivalent of saying I is equals to I plus 2. The loop will start from 1 and it will increment 2 times. So it will start from 1 and then it will give alternate numbers as 3, 5, 7 and 9. Okay, so now let's see how do we loop on a string as well. Let me say that we have a string as my string equals to Mary had a little lamb. Okay, and we will check what all characters are there. So what for loop will do is it will start taking character by character in this statement and it will print it. Okay, so guys can see here it has segregated all the characters and you get this output. So guys, now let's design some beautiful patterns using the loop and check if that works. So let's say that we want to design this pattern using for loop and string concepts that we have already learned. But before that, I want to show you two important features in Python slicing. Let's say that we want to exclude the last character from the string and print it. How many different ways you guys think of to implement this? This can be done numerous of ways actually, using the length of the string and then looping till n minus 1 and printing n, etc. Okay, but easiest way is to slice the string till n minus 1th index. This can also be done by two ways, one of which is slicing from the left and another is slicing from the right. As you guys know, that third parameter in slicing is increment parameter, and interestingly, if we give -1 in that, it will take the index from the right instead from the left. So let's say that we want to print the last character of this string. So there are two different ways of doing that. Okay, one way is this, that is from the left, and one way is this. So you can see here that it has extracted the index from the string. So the first method does it through the left side and the second method does it from the right side. So guys, which one do you think is easier? Let me know in the comment section. Another beautiful implementation of slicing is in reversing a string. Okay, so let's see that also. So let's say print str1. Okay, so this is normal string. So this is the normal value of step function. Here, if you give 1 here, it will be stepping or incrementing by 1 every character. But let's say that we give -1 here. Now what happens? Exactly. So it has reversed the string. As I've already told you that giving -1 means it will start from the right. So it has started from the right and it has taken and reversed the string. So now let's come back to this pattern once again. So we need to code this. As you guys can see here, it consists of colon and a space in every line, and it is appending, incrementing by 1 colon and a space in every line. So it is coming as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we have to code this in a manner which is exactly the same. Let's start. So I'll take empty string as 1. Okay, and I'll create a for loop, let's say from 0 to 9, so total in 10. Okay, and I will check the value of I. So for first 5 value, that is from 0 to 4, I will do certain thing, and for the rest I will do certain thing. Equals to colon space, and then let's print this. Okay, and elif I is greater than 4, that is starting from 5, str1 equals to str1 colon -2. Print str1. Okay, sorry. Okay guys, you can see here the exact match has happened. So the logic here is we will loop till 10 indexes, and gradually we will take first 5 index and we will start appending in string which is empty here. So till this point the if is running. Okay, and starting here in elif, this is starting from index -2. So that is from backside it is taking excluding the colon and a space. So colon space is what we are appending, and colon space is what we are deleting, started deleting from the 5th index itself. So it has given us this output. We can also use indexes, and that will be possible without using an extra variable. Let's see how to do that. Okay, let's say that we have this sentence and I have n in alphabet with enumerate function. Okay, and I will print this. Let me shift it here. Yeah. Okay, so you guys can see here that we did not use any extra variable, but still we'll be able to print the indexes of each of the characters present in this string. So we can use enumerate and do that as well. There is a keyword called as continue, which is used to return the control to the beginning of the while loop, escaping all the remaining elements in the current iteration of the loop, and that facilitates execution of the next iteration directly. So let's see the use of it via an interesting example. So let's say that we have a list of inventories as apple, banana, potato, mango, onion, and toothpaste, and we already have the list of fruits and vegetable identified. So we have to find out and check the count of vegetables in our inventory and fruits in our inventory. So let's do via use of that continue statement. Let's say that count of fruits is initially 0, count of vegetables initially 0, and we will loop an item in list of items inventories. So we'll simply use in statement and we will print the item for now. Okay, then we will use if and check if the item exists in the fruits, and then increment the count underscore fruit by 1. So this is count fruit equals to current fruit plus 1. This is equivalent statement. Else, elif, we will check item in vegetables, then increment the count of veg by 1. Or else, if none of these exist, then we will say continue. Okay, and at last we will print the count of fruits and count of vegetable in our inventory. Okay, so there was a typo. It should be fruits. Okay, so there are 3 fruits and 2 vegetables, as you can see. So the 3 fruits are apple, banana and mango, and vegetables are potato and onion from the list of fruits and vegetable in our inventory. Let's see some more functionalities with respect to string functions in conjunction with the for loops. So we have this sentence, and what we have to do is we have to see what all hashtags are present in it. So what we'll do is we will iterate it word by word. Tweet.split, we'll split it defaultly via space, and see word dot starts with hash, then we will print that word, separating out the first letter of it, which is hash. Okay, now let's move on to the dictionary part and see how to retrieve the elements in it. So dictionary, as we have seen, contains keys and values in it, and it can be iterated using the various ways. So let's say that we want to print the keys as well as values in this dictionary. So we can do that via for loop. So the function here we'll use is items, and we will print its key and val. Okay, so here it gives the keys and values in a proper format. Now let's say that we only want keys, so we can also do that, and we just want to, we have to remove this val from it, and instead of items we'll use keys here and say print key. Okay, and if you want just the value items in it, then you can say values, say a value, and here it returns the value. So value here is a list, remember guys. So the key here is the number and value is a list, so it returns the values here. Now we'll see a small example where we will count how many people in this dictionary have age less than or equal to 25. Okay, so to do that, I'm taking a temporary variable known as count, and identical to previous iteration, I'm doing the similar way here and using the students data dot items. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll check in if statement whether the age, that is the second index here, has less than equals to 25. Okay, and we will then increment the count and print the counts here. Okay, so here you can see that Mark and Warren have age less than and equals to 25, and thus this 2 is returned. So guys, now I will demonstrate by an example a usage of while loop by iterating items, and also we shall see the usage of break statement in it. So guys, break statement is, as the name suggests, is used to break out of the loop, and let's see that by an example. So let's say that we have 3 fruits and we want to iterate them till the end when no more element is left. So this is just for an example. Let's say that this list can be dynamic too, and we do not know the length of it, so that the number of elements in it can be anything. So in that case, we will use while with iter function, which fetches next element each time. So let's start, and I will create that iter object here. Let's say it is iterating this fruits. So this is the way we iterate the list, guys. So I'll create a while loop. Okay, this is just a you can say a modification of for loop. So here I will be using while true, which is an infinite while loop, and we would require break statements to break out of it. So let's check how to do that. And I will be using try and except block also. So I'll tell you about try and except. Try is used to check for exceptions basically, and catch is used to catch and handle it as per our needs. So we will see some of its elaborated examples in the session to come, but let's have an idea on that using this example. So just for giving you an example, I'm using it. Okay, so let's say that we have this fruit as the next element, which we have for this iter object, and we will print this each time just to know what is the next element. Okay, now we have to write except. So except is just to catch the exception in case the loop terminates, that is the list ends there. Okay, so there is stop iteration exception is there, and we will say break here. Okay, so let's run this. So you guys can see that apple, orange and kiwi are the result of this. So how it is able to exit it? Because of the exception it has encountered, that it has reached the end of the list and there is no next element now. So it directly goes to this except stop iteration and it breaks. Clear, guys? Let's move on to the comprehensions now. So comprehensions in Python provide us with a short and concise way of constructing new sequences, just like list, set, dictionary, and etc., using sequences which have already been defined. Okay, and we will be seeing list and dictionary comprehensions for now, as those two are the most used ones. Now let me give you an example of how do we write loops using normal for and how to convert it in list comprehensions. So we will be creating a list of square values of 1 to 9 numbers first using normal for loop, and then converting it to list comprehension way of doing it. Okay, so let's start. I'll say squares list equals to an empty list here, and I will iterate in range starting from 1 to 10. That will exclude 9 and we'll start from 1. Then I will take this list and I will start appending values using append. I will say x star star 2, so that is squared. Okay, and then I will print the list. Okay, so this is the normal way of doing it. Now let's try the list comprehension way of doing it. So list comprehensions are nothing but the way to format a for loop in order to make code more elegant and readable and focus more on the business logic than updating the list. Okay, so what we'll do here is we'll create the list comprehension. We'll use the same list name, and the list comprehension starts by the same square brackets and a for loop. Okay, so I'll just copy this statement. Okay, so the only difference here is we are creating an empty list here and appending the x squared value to that list, but in list comprehension we'll just simply return the x squared value each time the for loop returns the element. Okay, so this will automatically create an empty list and start appending the squared value of each item starting from 1 to 10. Okay, so let's print out this. So exactly the same list. Okay. Now let's see the usage of list comprehensions along with string operations. So let's write it in plain for loop first, like we did before, and then we will convert the logic to list comprehension. Okay, so let's say that we have this list with individual sentences. Consider it as a paragraph with each of the sentences, and we have to find the words in each which starts from a vowel. So just to give an example, like a, it, in, like that. Okay, so we'll start. So first what we will do is we will declare vowels which are a, e, I, o and u. Okay, then what we will do next is we will create an empty list. Okay, then we will iterate this paragraph, so it will return each of the sentence in it. Okay, then next what we will do is we will iterate the sentence, okay, using split. Okay, and it will return the words in it. Okay, so split, normal split, what it will do is it will split it via spaces. Okay, so it will return individual words in it. Now next we need to check each word starting character. We will convert that to lower and check, because we are having lower characters in vowels, and we will check whether those characters exist in this list. Okay, and next we will append those words here. Okay, okay, and then at last we will print this list. So you guys can see from the first sentence it has taken a. Okay, from the second sentence first word it has taken it, because it is starting from I, and then from the same sentence fourth word it has taken in, because it is starting I, and from the third sentence first word it has taken it. So as planned, now we will convert this to list comprehensions. Okay, so we will say vowel comprehension. Okay, and then we have to convert each of these sentence to a single line first, as we have seen before. That is how list comprehension is written, and then we need to return the word from it. Okay, so it will automatically be appended to the empty list. Okay, so let's write that. So I'll just copy each of the sentence here. So this is how simple it is. Okay, one after the other. Just observe, guys. Okay, so the if also comes after this. Okay, and then we need to return the word. Then we will print this. So exactly the same list is written here. So just as list comprehensions, there are dictionary comprehensions also. So let's see that via an example. So let's say that we want to square the numbers starting from 0 to 4 and have the keys as the number and value as the squared number. Okay, so we will say square dictionary equals to, and we'll start it via the curly braces, because dictionary starts with curly braces. So in list comprehensions we have used square brackets because list represents square brackets. So here we are using curly braces. So we'll say for num in range starting from 0, you can say, till 5, because you have to take 4 elements, 0 to 4. Then we will return num as the key and num squared as the value. Okay, so once you run this, you can have the keys and values attached in the same dictionary. Okay, so you can see 0 square is 0, 1 square is 1, 2 square is 4, 3 square is 9, 4 square is 16. Now we will see another example of using dictionary comprehensions using if statements. So for an example, we will take the student dictionary where the keys represents the roll number and the values represent the list of their names and ages. Okay. Now we have a problem at hand to make a dictionary of students having even roll numbers be separated and be presented like a dictionary with keys as their roll number and values as their names. Okay. So let's do that via list comprehension directly. So as you guys have already been familiarized with it and comfortable, so now I expect that this should be simple. So names comp is the name of the dictionary we are using here, and first we will iterate this dictionary. Okay, so we'll say roll num comma details in student data dot items. Okay, and we have to take only guys with the roll numbers which are even. So we'll say roll number mod 2 equals to 0, and then we have to return roll number as the key and details first element, that is the name. Okay, and then let me print this. Okay, so you can see here that it has returned 2 and 4 which are even, and it has returned only the names and not their ages. So we have got what we expected. So now time for some questions, guys. So I have a list of 3 questions for you. I can read it out and you can try using your knowledge of list comprehensions and solve it. So the first question is, create a list of multiple of 4 for just even numbers between 1 to 10. Okay, this should be very simple. Then second question is, create a list of multiples of 4 even numbers between 1 to 10 and multiple of 5 for the rest of the numbers. Okay, and then third question is, multiply n ranging from 1 to 5 with first 1, then 2, and then 3. So this also will have 2 for loops in it. Okay, so you guys can give it a try and comment below in the comment section. I will definitely give the answers for these questions in the next lecture. So now let's move on to functions. So I'll give a brief introduction about functions. So functions are nothing but a block of code that we can reuse again and again in order to execute some computational, logical, or evaluative tasks. Okay, and functions can be both built-in as well as user-defined. So if we talk about built-in functions, I can give you some examples like string functions such as replace, split, or you can talk about list functions also such as sum or length. Okay, so let's look at the user-defined functions for now. Okay, so I'll say def. So this is the definition for a function, and this is the name of the function. So this is screen, and then I will print something in it. Let's say hello world. Okay, and this is how we call the function, guys. It is through the name and circular brackets. Okay, so this gives hello world. So this is internally calling this function and printing hello world here. So let's see one simple example of computation in a function. Okay, so what I'll do is I will make a square function that does a square based on the parameters passed in it. Okay, so I'll declare a variable here and say num into 2 that does a square and return out from it. Okay, so this has created one function. Now if we want to call it, we'll simply say square, and we can pass any number of which we want to do square. So let's say that we want to pass 3. So 3 square is 9. Now we will see one interesting example to apply functions in recursive manner. By recursive manner, I mean calling the same function again inside the function itself. Okay, so to demonstrate that, we have to understand the concept of factorial. So factorial is a mathematical term used to denote product of an integer and all the integers number below it up to 1. Okay, so as you can see on the screen itself, that if I say 3 factorial, it means 3 into 2 into 1. Okay, so 5 factorial will mean 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So down below I have generalized also this formula, so this will be applicable for every integer. Okay, now we will see how to develop a program out of it using function recursion. Okay, so let's say def factorial, and we will pass a number for which we need to calculate the factorial, and then we'll have an if statement having n is greater than 1. Okay, so if n is greater than 1, then it will return n into and call the factorial function by decrementing n's value. So by this we mean that it will return n into, and then 4 will go inside the same function, then next time 3 will go inside the same function. So like that this function will behave. Okay, so else we are writing when it reaches 1. Okay, so it returns n. Okay, then we will store this value inside fact variable, and let's say that we want to calculate 5 factorial. Okay, now we will print the value of it. Okay, so this gives 120. Let's check this value via manually doing it. So let's say 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So exactly the same value. So this function is working good. Okay, now let's see some example based on the parameterized function, where we do not know the number of parameters we are going to pass, but we still want the function to work. Okay, so as the argument are multiple, we can even iterate over them just like the list. Okay, so let me give you an example of it. So let's say that we want to add some numbers. Okay, so I'll say addition, and I will pass star args. Okay, so this represents, guys, that these are not just a single variable but a multiple variables. Okay, then I will print those args, and then I will return the sum of those args. Okay, so this will create a function. Now how will we call it? I'll do directly print and then the function's name. Okay, and then I will pass on what are numbers I want to add. Let's say that I want to add 1 3 5. Okay, these are numbers. So you can see here that 1 plus 3 is 4 plus 5 is 9. So this guy has taken all these numbers and it has done the sum and returned us the sum of it. So there is a similar example of quarks instead of args. And where is it used? It is used to represent keyword variable length argument list. Okay, so in this args we are not passing any keywords as such. Okay, while calling the function, but in quarks we have to do it. Okay, so that will represent, like, when we have to use certain kind of variable, we can do that via keys which are passed inside the variable. Okay, so let's say that we want to create and check how quarks work. So I will create the function def my fun. Let's say this is the function name, and it has one normal argument called arg1, and it has quarks also. So quarks. Okay, and then I will iterate it. Okay, so for key comma value, it's just like a dictionary actually, so you can do the same thing here as well, and I will say quarks dot items. Okay, and then I will print it. Print, then I use %s just for formatting correctly. %s. Okay, then outside I will do percentage and then key comma value. Okay, now I will call this function. Okay, so I'll do my fun and I will pass some variables. So this is just the normal variable, and then comes quarks. So first is my key for quarks and hello is the value for it. Then let's say mid is the key, and then my is the value for it. Then let's say last is name, okay, is world. Okay, so this whole is the value for it. Let's check how it prints now. Okay, so it has printed these via iterating each one of these key and value pairs, and it has given this output. Now let's see some combination of using functions along with list comprehensions and strings. Okay, so let's say that the task at hand is to capitalize the first letter of both the first name and surname, and given the surname and the first name are in small letters. Okay, so we'll format it saying proper. Okay, and you can give any text here, so we'll say some text, and then what we'll do is we'll use it and trim it first for some extra spaces. Okay, so I'll say strip, so any spaces in it will go, and then I will say some text equals to, and then I will create a list comprehension which starts with for word in this some text dot split, because it will be having spaces. Okay, and then I will take each word here. Okay, and what I'll do is I will do word of 0, okay, 0 dot upper, and then plus word starting from 1. So we are leaving the first character and capitalizing it and taking the rest of the string and then leaving it as it is. Okay, so we will be returning this. So this will return a list basically, and then we need to do a join. So guys, as you guys have already seen that join function is used to join the individual elements inside the list. So once we do this, we will have our final string, something like this. Okay, so now I will say some name equals to proper, and then I will pass the name. Let's say Nikola Tesla. Okay, and I will print it. Okay, so it's giving me some error here. Okay, sorry, this will be a plus. Okay, so it capitalizes the first letter of both of the first name as well as the second name, and rest of the string remains same here. So guys, let's look at lambda functions now. So lambda functions, if we talk about, it is an anonymous function that has only one expression but can have multiple arguments. Okay, so when we think that the task of computation is small and does not need new function build, we can use lambda functions in that cases. Okay, so let's say that I have this name Nikola Tesla and I want to split that using lambda function. Okay, so we are already having a split function in string, so we just need to use that and create a lambda function. Okay, so I'll say string to list. Okay, and I will say lambda x colon x dot split. Okay, so here if you see here the lambda, after lambda the first argument that it takes is an input. Okay, and after colon this is the output that it gives. So we can use this just like any other function. Okay, so let's use it and see how it behaves. Okay, so now if I say string to list and pass name in it. Okay, so here we are seeing that it has splitted the name into different elements in the same list. So now let's look at map functions along with lambda. So I'll give you some scenarios where we can use those. Okay, so let's say that we are going to iterate a list and we are going to square the element of the list. Let's say that we have this first list, okay, where we have a couple of elements like 2, 4, 6. Okay, now if I have to square these, I have to make a list comprehension and do an iteration and square these. I cannot do simply this first list power 2, so this will give me error. Okay, but you can do the same thing with map and it will work. Okay, let me show how it is done. So let me first tell you what is a map. So we can use a map function. Map function returns a map object, which is an iterator of the result after applying the given function to each item of that iterable, which can be a list or any tuple or anything. Okay, so in this case we have this list and we can apply that. So let's say that we want to apply a map function and it will be having a lambda in it. Okay, so as you all know, the first parameter is the input and the second one is the output it will give. So this is the lambda, and map function's second parameter. So first parameter of a map function will always be a lambda. Okay, so it is calling a function, and the second parameter is the iterable, which is in this case a list. So when we give this and we execute, you can see here it is giving us a map object. Okay, so we can also iterate this and convert this into a list. So it will in turn convert into a list and give us the result. So see, 2 4 6 squares is 2 square is 4, 4 square is 16, and 6 square is 36. So this is how it is done. So as you have seen here, the map function's first parameter is always a function, which can be either a lambda or a customized function written by us, and the second parameter is a list. So we can even give a customized function here. So let's try and give that also and check whether this works. So I'll say square it. Okay, and I made some function which takes n as an integer and return n square. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll use a map function. Okay, and inside it we'll call this square it function, and we will pass a list. So let's say we have this first list only, we'll pass this and we will convert it to a list as we have also done before. Okay, so you can see the similar results come for this also. So now we will see one example where map function is quite useful, and it is when we are going to iterate on two iterables and operate on them simultaneously. Let's say that we want to do any algebraic operation on them element wise. For an example, we want to do an element wise addition with one of them being a list and another as a tuple. Okay, so let's see. So let's say that sums list is 3 5 9 7. Okay, and sums list 2 is 4 5 6 7. Okay, we have to do element wise addition, that is 3 plus 4 7, 5 plus 5 10, likewise. Okay, so let's use map in this. We'll say map and then we'll use lambda and x comma y. So in this case, guys, there will be two inputs, one from sum list 1 and one from the sum list 2. So each of the elements will behave as an input. So first time 3 and 4 will go each from 1 1. So x will become 3 and 4 y will become 4. So likewise it will iterate and it will give output. So what we have to do is x plus y, that is summing the elements of each of the lists. Okay, then what we will pass here, guys, the next parameter here that will go is the lists, both of the lists. Okay, so this is the first list and this is the second list. Okay, and then we will encapsulate in list. So this will give us the final output and we will print it. Okay, so you can see 3 plus 4 is 7, 5 plus 5 is 10, 9 plus 6 is 15, and 7 plus 7 is 14. So guys, let's look at lambda functions with strings and maps now. So let's say that we have each of the list, one for the first name of the famous people and another list with their corresponding surnames. Okay, so the problem at hand is we have to capitalize the first letter of first name and the surname and join them with spaces. Okay, and we have to return this as a list with people's full name. So let's look at how to do that. Okay, so we'll create a lambda function named as proper. Okay, and we will take the input from each of the lists. Okay, as we have done before. Now what I'll do is I will take the first character of the first element of the first list, and then I will change it to upper. Okay, and then I will join it with the rest of the string, that is the rest of the string other than the first letter. Okay, then what we have to do is we have to include space also. So I'll include a space, and then I will again do an addition of the first letter from the first element of the second list. Okay, now I'll do an upper from in this also. Okay, and add the rest of the string. Okay, so this will create a lambda function. Now how we will use it is inside a map like we did before. So I'll call proper in this. Okay, along with the list. So the first argument will be this, and the second argument will be this, third argument will be this. Okay, now I'll again convert this to list, as we have to return a list of full names, and then print it. Okay, so you can see here clearly that the first letter of each of the first name and last name of the same person is converted to upper letters, and it has joined it using spaces. So guys, let's look at filter function now. So filter function, as the name suggests, will filter out the elements in an iterable using any condition or an if statement. Okay, if we talk about the difference between a map and a filter, then a map is used to do a computation on the iterable and return a result, whereas the filter filters out the element based on a certain condition and returns the element from the same iterable. Okay, let's look at the example for filter. So let's say that we want to have a list, and we want to check each of the elements in that list whether it is completely divisible by 3 or not. Okay, so let's say that there is my list. Okay, and I have some elements here which are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. Okay, now I'll create one lambda here. Okay, so I'll create a div by 3 equals to lambda x colon x mod 3. So guys, remember this is a mod function which checks for a remainder. So in turn it checks whether a given element is completely divisible by another element or not. Okay, so if the remainder is 0, that means that it is completely divisible. Okay, so we'll use this in div equals to filter, and what we will have here is this lambda function. Okay, and the list. So this, what it will do is it will check for each element whether this is completely divisible by 3 or not, and filter out the elements which are not divisible by 3 and return the list of the elements which are completely divisible by 3. Okay, so I will say div. Okay, so among this list you guys see that 3, 6 and 9 are the elements which are completely divisible by 3, and thus the others are filtered out. Now let's move on to reduce function. So reduce, as the name signifies, it is used to do a computation and reduce the list. Okay, so it will behave as any aggregation function, and which is applied to the iterable like lists. Okay, so let's check the usage of it. So to use reduce, we have to import a library from functools, and that is reduce. Okay, once we import this, we'll be able to use it. And let's say that we want to sum up the numbers starting from 1 to 3. Okay, so we can write it using sum function also, or we can use it or write it using reduce function also. let's see how do we write that. Okay, so we'll say reduce, and it also takes a lambda x comma y, so two variables, and then x plus y. Okay, and what we will pass here as a range function with 1 to 4 as a number. Okay, so what it will do is it will take each of the elements like 1, 2 and 3, and it will start iterating it and start passing it one by one in this lambda function. Okay, so let's run this, and then I will show how it is doing that. Okay, then I will print this. Okay, so 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 3 is 6. So it is given us 6. You can see here the sum operation also does the same thing if you pass a list here. Okay, so right now there is no difference, but you will see the difference later on in the other sections when I will teach it. So let's look at reduce function, how it internally operates. Okay, so you guys have seen here that it is summing up the elements, but internally how it is doing that, let me tell you. Let's take a larger list, let's say elements from 1 to 5. Okay, so it will be taking up to 4. Okay, so this will be summing up to 10 as well as this. Okay, so what it is internally doing is it is summing 1 plus 2. Okay, and then it will again do plus 3 on top of it, then it will again do plus 4 on top of it. So it is summing and then taking the next element again and again. Okay, so in this case you see here 10 is come, so the same concept reduce also applies in its function. Now let us look at some other example of reduce which will give you a larger picture of it. So let's say that we want to find the largest element in a list. So let's check how to do it using reduce function. So let us have this variable which stores different elements. Okay, variety of elements, and which is not in sequential order or sorted order, and you can see how reduce will basically reduce it to a single element and will give the largest element of it. Okay, so let's use it. Say reduce. Okay, use a lambda in it just like before, and use x and y as an input, and now we will do comparison. So we will check if x is greater than y. If x is greater than y, we will return x, else we will return y, and we will take this as an input of the list. Okay, and then we will print it. Okay, so what it is basically doing, it is checking from the 0th element and comparing two elements at once. So 22 and 45, among these, so this is x and this is y, so y is greater, so y is returned. Then it is again checking 45 and 32, so among this 45 is greater, so x is returned. Then x is forwarded basically here, and then for 45 will be checked with 20, and then 45 is returned. Then 45 is checked with 87, then 87 is returned, and then 87 is checked with 94, 94 is returned, and then 94 is checked with 30. So 94 is returned as a result now. This completes our basic concepts of Python, guys. So many congratulations for completing and learning this with your utmost zeal. And now in the further lectures, we will be looking at NumPy and Pandas. So stay tuned and please practice as much as possible on the topics taught so that it is easier going forward. Also, please leave a comment in the comment section for any doubts, or if you want me to include more information regarding certain topics. If you like my session, please like, share and subscribe, and stay tuned for more awesome content on data science, as this is the channel you can rely as a one-stop point to learn anything and everything. Please stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.